Hi, I'm Kristine. I work here at Stanford with Judy. And before I dive into the research, I would like to tell you a bit more about myself and my journey in research. Like some of you, one of the first projects I was involved with was more kind of classical. So it was on the Pons illusion. And here we have this kind of stimuli, and we were asking questions about how people perceive and represent the size of the two horizontal lines. They kind of look different, but they're actually the same length. And then one of the next projects I worked on at Princeton was asking how people learned which object feature, so here shape or texture, is relevant to pay attention to maximize some kind of reward. And from both of these different research projects, I really liked the degree of experimental control we had because it was in the lab, and the kinds of really elegant computational models we could build for perception, attention, and learning because of the kind of data we collected. But at the same time, something I knew that I really cared about was how to connect these questions about human cognition to the wider world outside of lab. So I really wanted to know how I could ask fundamental questions about human minds in the world where things had stakes for people involved. And it wasn't really clear to me how the status quo in cognitive psychology and neuroscience would get us there. But I was really excited to start working with Judy here. And today I'm going to share some of what we've been working on. And it's from the idea that we as cognitive scientists should meet people where they are from the start. And as scientists interested in human learning, we're beginning our work in the classroom. And this is where so many people spend so much of their time, especially during their formative years as humans. And as all of you guys have been talking about, data literacy skills are incredibly important. There's a lot of data out there in the world, and everyone, so not just scientists, but also ordinary people reading the news, are finding the skills of data science really critical for understanding what's going on in the modern world and making evidence-based decisions. And to get there, we might need to offer experiences that bridge core math and computer sciences, as well as specific domains. So maybe like psychology, healthcare, so on. But there's one serious barrier, and ones that like Alice and other folks at Course Kata have also been mentioning, is students who take their first data science class, they might feel intimidated, honestly, because they might have complicated feelings towards math based on experiences they've had in other math classes, and computer programming might be totally new for someone first starting college. And this might be true even if they find the material or the application domain really interesting. So to bring it all together, our overarching question of this project is to understand the broad set of factors that predict engagement and learning behaviors over the course of a data science class. And how we're going to do that has two components. So first, we're exploring an existing data set for any associations between attitudes and beliefs students come into the course with, as well as with their observable behavior engagement and success in the course. And the second component, which is still under development, is to take what we've learned from exploring this existing data to develop and test interventions that might help students engage more deeply with the material and get more out of learning experiences. So I'll dive into what the concrete things we did are. And how are we doing this? We've been really, really lucky to be partnering with Course Kata, so Jim, G, Alice, Stacy, all the folks here, and others on the team. So we're leveraging their digital learning platform and the opportunities it offers to kind of jointly progress on advancing studies of learning, as well as designing learning experiences. Our analysis today will focus on a longitudinal data set collected across 11 institutions, 45 classrooms, and over 1,300 students in an introductory data science class at the college level in 2023. And from the structure of the digital learning textbook that G just went over, we can measure student mindset, engagement, and learning. So more about this, so we take this survey at the start of the course that asks questions about students' initial beliefs and attitudes. And throughout the course, we measure engagement as the proportion of completed learning activities. And finally, at the end of each chapter, we take the formative assessment or end of chapter quiz to measure learning from that section. And the folks who developed the survey really used a lot of well-known and well-studied psychological constructs and ones that have been thought to play a role in learning, so like math anxiety and expected value. And in this case, since we had the opportunity to study all these constructs together, we decided to look into the relationship between these different constructs. And what we find is there does seem to be really meaningful low-dimensional structure in the different response patterns. So constructs like math anxiety and expected stress hang together, and some of the other constructs also seem to hang together. And then more on our measures of engagement and learning. So here I have some density curves that show engagement or page completion rate throughout the chapters on the left. And then I have learning on the right, and it goes from earlier chapters in the darker colors to later chapters in the lighter colors. And it's kind of interesting to see how there are like different distributions and variation across chapters and across students. So next, we analyzed the predictive power of students' initial mindsets and engagement on how well they did on these formative learning assessments. And on the right, I'll be showing you the results of comparing different regression models that included some or all of these factors that you see on the bottom here. So here on the y-axis, we have the relative AIC, which is a measure of model fit. So the lower the bar, basically, the better the model fit. And then we found that the more information we had on mindset, so both about anxiety and stress, as well as about experience and interests, the better we could predict student learning. But on the other hand, we found that this measure of engagement, proportion of pages complete, actually doesn't seem to explain any more variation in learning than just the mindset factors alone. So it's kind of unclear why this is the case, but it's also kind of interesting to see that maybe students who are feeling some way about the course might not actually, I guess like their behavior in the course might not actually be related to how well they didn't do. But in our ongoing work, we're continuing to explore more of these measures of engagement to really better understand how psychological factors of mindset and beliefs really impact these learning outcomes. So still quite ongoing. And then given that we now know that there are these really early signatures that predict student success, so the attitudes and beliefs they come into the course with, we now see there might be some opportunities to try to shift how students feel and help them succeed later. And so how are we doing this? There's pretty good reason to believe that different psychological interventions might be effective for helping students kind of shift their beliefs and succeed in challenging academic contexts. So from past work that's been pretty influential, for example, growth mindset, the idea that students may come into the class with some belief that their abilities are fixed, but the intervention will help them reframe their abilities as being amenable to growth and change. And this is pretty common in like math courses where people think they're either really good at math or not. And then there's also other kinds of interventions to help students reframe their belonging in a group and their beliefs about their own achievement. And the kinds of student success that we're interested in is both short-term gains, so how they do in the immediate class or quiz, as well as long-term ones. So like motivation to continue taking courses down the line in their career, basically. And as like an overview of our really ongoing study design that we just started piloting last fall, through the Course Kata platform, we have a bunch of students who are enrolled in a class. They might come in with some mindset they have about themselves and the material, as well as some prior knowledge from other experiences. And the students that we're targeting here are primarily studying social sciences, so there might be a lot of variation in how they feel about math, statistics, and programming. And this would really affect the way they engage with the course. So some students might get like excited, while others get really frustrated when learning to debug code, for example. In the middle of the term, we're planning to administer a mindset intervention to help them reframe challenges as opportunities for growth. And this is followed up by a data analysis activity to observe how students navigate really interactive programming exercises, ones that are like really common in normal like data science as a field. And after the intervention, we measure what changes there might have been in both the student for their mindset as well as what they've learned. I'll give a bit more detail about the intervention. So the intervention embedded within the course coded textbook has students being randomly assigned to receive 2 variants of a module learning how people learn. So here we use the random condition assignment that Course Kata has developed. So half the students learn about how to reframe challenges as opportunities for learning and growth, and they're really like hinted at how they could apply these techniques to their own experiences and in the course. And the other half of the students learned about different parts of the brain, so things like neurotransmitters and plasticity, kind of still interesting, but also not applicable to what they're doing in class and their experiences as students. And 2 weeks after the intervention, we started to develop an open-ended programming activity where half the class are randomly assigned to a sort of interactive data analysis activity. So they implement multiple simulations under different conditions. So it's sort of really related to things that other folks have been talking about. Here we want them to see where p-values come from and how different factors like sample size can really impact the kind of outcomes you can draw from data. And then the other half of the class still learned about p-values, but more of like a reading passage instead of like an interactive activity. So this work is still really ongoing, and we're really excited to see where it goes. Would love to talk to all of you about interactive simulations and other kinds of interventions. So there's that. And thank you all for listening. Thank you to our collaborators and partners.
Hey, great talk. One thing I would be really interesting to know, I guess it's still ongoing work, but it's just a preamble here, is how the simulation will work for students with different levels of knowledge in the course, and also different comfortability, I guess, or self-efficacy with understanding simulations or programming in general. Because one thing we've seen from other studies we've done with simulation is that simulation, first of all, is really difficult for them. And I wonder, have you thought about like what could be like even going beyond giving them simulations to give them scaffoldings, for example, to understanding the simulations?
Yeah. That's a really good question. We're still, I guess, like, we're still trying to kind of develop this part, and definitely hoping to hear more about your demo soon. So, yeah, I guess we're kind of hoping that it would be really nice to have the way to have the mindset intervention kind of join with the simulation intervention. So maybe students who are like less comfortable but go through the mindset intervention start to feel like they could do some challenging activities. So hopefully like through that pipeline, then we can address like different students and their needs, but it's still ongoing.
It was a compliment. It was a great talk. I really like the visuals. Thank you.